right, we're ready to get started.
All right.
I want to welcome all you guys on this rainy, fabulous evening. We're going to let the sunshine and the brightness shine through the cloudy day, just like we always do here at Hope Sheds Light. I want to extend a very special thank you to everybody who supported our walk this year. Again, even though it was rainy, it was successful, and we definitely spread the hope that comes with Hope Sheds Light. So we really want to thank everybody, especially our generous donors and our very successful and talented volunteers that always step up and help Hope Sheds Light be successful. So thank you guys very, very much for your hard work and dedication. We really appreciate it. So we have a very special guest tonight. We have Chaplain Juan Mendez from America's KESWICK. Juan is the director, and I'm reading this because my memory, the director of Men's Addiction Recovery of America's KESWICK. So let's give a very, very warm welcome to Juan Mendez.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? It's good. That's a Rising commercial, right? I want to thank Hope Sheds Light because we all know that we are knee deep in an epidemic here. We don't have to agree with everything on all topics, but we know that if we don't partner with each other, if we don't roll our sleeves up and get busy in this next generation, that we will be losing more and more of our families and friends. And some of us in here understand that, right? And so I just wanted to share a little bit about what we do here at America's KESWICK, because every entity and every organization does things a little different, but they also supply a different need. And I just want to share, it's an honor to be in front of you guys and to be with you guys tonight to share what we do at America's KESWICK. America's KESWICK has been here for over 121 years. 121 years today. We celebrated our anniversary. And think about that. Think about how many, if you think about that, how many corporations that you know have opened and closed, and you would think that would sustain, 121 years. For instance, I'm looking down the street, Toys R Us. Who would ever think Toys R Us would close down or shut down? In my town, we used to have a little store called Calidor, and Kmart. Who would ever think Kmart would be in the condition that it is? And for the last 100 years, you see a transition and change. So I thank God that we're still here after 121 years. It was a hope and a dream of an individual that came from Keswick, England. It's actually Keswick, who had a vision. He had a problem with alcohol. He struggled with it, lost a family member. Through that addiction, came here. His grandson started the Whosoever Gospel in Philly. You ever heard of Whosoever Gospel in Philly? What they realized is that in the city there were so many temptations. Now we're talking 1887 or 1890, 1800s, 1897, and they wanted to get people out of the city to a place where they can get away and won't be tempted, because we have bars and liquor stores on every corner. And so they carved out this little place. They bought we have like 125 acres right there in Whiting. They bought it back then for $1.87. $1.87. They put their change together and bought this place. And so actually this presentation, this is my wife. Yeah, and my two little girls. Actually, my wife made this presentation. And she was supposed to be here to present because my wife works at our residential women's facility called Barber's Place, where it's a 6-month to a year inpatient treatment center. And so sometimes individuals need a little more than just showing up to meetings and getting counsel. Sometimes they have to get away and get in facility and kind of get away from their surroundings. And so Barbara's Place is where my wife work at. They have 10 beds open, 10 beds open right now. 10 women are in those beds. I think they have a couple open. But in the men's program, it's a little bigger. We have 40 beds in our initial program and 12 beds for after programs called discipleship. And they have a housing in a different phase after they complete their 120-day program. And so we're here for you. We're here for anybody that you know could use a resource to check themselves in and get themselves a little bit more help if they have lost their way. And some of you probably understand that, right? And so we're just going to share a little bit. But before I start, I want this to be real. I really don't want this to be like some movie, just some themes. So I brought a person that actually went through the program and in his second phase in discipleship and going to graduate soon. So can we make welcome Kevin as he's come to share a little bit about what's going on?
What's going on, guys? My name's Kevin. I recently graduated the 120-day program, moved over to the phase of discipleship. What brought me to America's KESWICK was I was addicted to heroin, crack cocaine, methamphetamines, pretty much anything I could use that would alter the way I felt about my reality and the circumstances I was living in. I've had a rough life growing up, stood up on my own 2 feet. I did everything on myself. I stopped relying on God growing up. It wasn't until 2016, my girlfriend, or my ex-girlfriend now, was pregnant. So I had a daughter. And when my daughter was born, it changed my view of everything. It really just broke my heart that I was struggling with addiction while my daughter was growing up. She's 2 years old now. And for 2 years prior to coming to America's KESWICK, I was in and out of NA, AA, addiction recovery meetings. You name it, I did everything I could to try to get a grasp of my addiction. But it wasn't enough. It definitely wasn't enough. I didn't have a close relationship with God. I tried doing things through NA and AA, but it wasn't faith-based, and I felt like there was something empty inside me. I wasn't getting what I really needed. I was still struggling. There was things in my past that were unanswered. And I didn't want to just keep masking things. I didn't want to just keep hiding the past or bottling it up. So I enrolled in the 120-day program, and through the counseling there, it woke me up. Not only woke me up, but it made me realize the issues that I was struggling with from a rough childhood and how it influenced my whole life and my addiction, how I was using just to cope with things. If I got an argument with somebody, I'd go use. I was using to keep working. I'd be working 2 or 3 jobs at a time, trying to support my habit and pay my bills. I had a great job in the casinos as a locksmith. I had a house, cars, toys, everything. And little by little, my addiction took all that away from me. It cost me more than I ever wanted to pay. It wasn't until my daughter's mother took my daughter from me that I realized I had a really big problem. Broke my heart. I came in, and by the grace of God, I was able to see my daughter again, and she was coming and visiting me. Now, if any of you have kids, you know what it's like when you hear your kid cry for that first time, that love that you feel. For me, it was uncanny. I've never experienced anything like that, any kind of love like that. And I didn't realize how much God loved me until I had my daughter. Because if I love my daughter that much, how much more does God really love me? So, going forth with that, I was offered the discipleship program at America's KESWICK. I thought to myself, well, I did the 120 days, the 4 months. I'm ready to, I want to go home. I want to go home and be with my daughter and get my feet on the ground. But it was me being obedient to what God was telling me. God was telling me to stay. And not only that, but even if God wasn't telling me, it wasn't another 3 months of the program, just to make sure I'm that father that I need to be to my daughter. That I'm that person I need to be, that son to my dad, brother to my sister, just a good member in the community. Somebody that I could have people lean on me and maybe set an example. So I enrolled in discipleship, and it hasn't been an easy road by any means, but it's been worth it. I've learned more through this entire process about myself, about my past, about those things I carried around with me. You know, those past hurts that I stuffed down and I would carry around with me, and it was like dragging an anchor. And once I let go of that stuff, I was free. And when I became free from the past hurts and my addiction, there's no telling what I'm capable of now, what God's going to do through me because of me finally letting go, forgiving, and being able to step up and do what God tells me to do. You know, this program works. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing place. So I just want to thank you guys for your time.
I'll give you $20 after. Actually, I don't know. But it's real. It's real. You know, it's not like something we know about or somebody told us about. I mean, we really experienced a life-changing encounter when we went through the program. You notice I'm saying we? Because 12 years ago, I had lost my way. I was sitting in front of a highway, sort of like the one out front. And I said I had a bad week, bad month, and a bad year. And it was it. And some people probably know have been there before. I was done. I was a waste of air. And I sat and I said, you know what? I'll just sit and wait for the biggest, baddest, fastest truck to come here and just slip in front of it. And I'll just go ahead and end it. That's 13 years ago. And I sat there and I waited, and I got this close that I can actually read M-A-C-K. Remember the Mack trucks? I was that close. I saw the M-A-C-K, and right before they was able to snatch myself away, and the truck went storming by. And in that, I realized, and I was directed to come to a place where I get help. And we titled this Addiction Recovery Family Matters. When I say family, I don't mean naturally. It's not secluded to just our biological family. Listen, we're family in this room today. We might not know it, but we have a common denominator in this room, and it's a lot of reasons why we ended up in this room today. I don't know exactly everybody's story. I don't know everybody's testimony, but I know there's a reason why all of us, it's not an accident or coincidence that all of us are in this room today. And when I say family, I mean us. I mean, because it takes a family to work through these issues that we're fighting out there. We can't do this alone. I can't do it alone. Our organization can't do it alone. Hope Shed Light knows that they can't do it alone. And so we need each other as a family. And you know what? We named it Family Matters. It's actually people matter. People matter. You matter. You're important. The person that's struggling in their thing, in their addiction, they're important. And they're important to us. They're important to God. And so we want to invest into the lives of individuals who don't know how to live and how to grow. And so Family Matters, like I said, my wife was on the way. I don't know where you guys are in your relationship with God, but if you can pray for her, she had ended up going to the ER. And so she's not feeling well. She's there now. She thought it was going to be in and out, and I just got a picture. She's in the bed, and so pray for her. Great, great woman of God. The Lord has used her in many ways. She got saved later in life, and she has a testimony of amazing deliverance. She would have to share her story herself, but God miraculously gave us these two little girls. This young lady goes to school down the street at Christian Academy, and this girl just hangs around the house and watches Veggie Tales all day and eat. It's funny because this little girl, she found a way of putting a stool up. It's interesting because, you know, when you're out of that lifestyle, you get to enjoy like regular life stuff now, right? I get to enjoy I saw this little girl, and she put a stool up, got cookies off the shelf, put them on a shelf that she could reach. And I kept wondering why every 5 minutes she has a fresh cookie. And I looked in the cabinet, she had put it in the shelf, and she can just go in and out when she wants. Amazing how that works. So when God allows us to live a life, it's amazing to come from the life that I shared, right, in front of that Mack truck, to being able to enjoy this type of life. And I thank God for it. So I've been 12 years in sobriety, celebrating 12 years. And that's a good thing, right? It's a good thing to be clean and sober and get to live life. So families are important to God. They're important to us, and it is not good that man should be alone. So that's why God, in the beginning, He created husband and wives and relation. It's just about relationships. He created relationships. People should be in relationship with each other, healthy relationship. We was talking about today how when you're in your recovery process, a lot of times you don't fit in with the people in recovery, and so you kind of rear back into the old friends and families and the old situations, and it kind of turns your direction. And we said, and we're learning how to fit in these new relationships and start moving in the right direction. So families are important. 3 out of 10 families indicate two family refers parents who were married in each other in a living situation. What is this? Is a family system has dropped. I see some people in here, maybe some boomers here. Do you see that the family system dropped with having two family households? You notice back in the day you saw two family household. In this latter day, it looks a little different, and so families are changing, right? And when they're changing, we have ripple effects of those change. Here's some stats on alcohol use. 17 million alcohol use, 7.1 million illicit drug, and 2.6 according to the national survey. So anybody want to see numbers? We can get numbers up. Y'all like numbers? Numbers just give you a picture. You can find numbers anyway. People can shape numbers anyway. But numbers just remind us how real these things is. In 2000, over 2,000 people suspected overdose in New Jersey since January 1st. I think we got these off of US Cares. You ever heard of that website? You want to get a real life website that has stats, today's stats. US Cares is a good resource for that to keep you up to speed. So opiates, we already know opiates is the issue, right? We don't have to see the numbers. Look around. We know it's an issue. I mean, it's almost impossible for these guys and women to get off the opiates. It's a struggle. It's a battle. It's a war. We thought alcohol and cocaine was bad. We thought prescription medication was bad, and they are. They get bad in some situations. They get real bad. But this new fentanyl and opiate, this thing is just another animal in its own. Yeah, I have a house in Camden, and I go through some of the streets just to see and the condition. I have some friends out there, and my daughter said, "Dad, why do everybody out here look like zombies?" The condition of the people in Camden, it looks like they're. It's just a bad situation, and the opiate had struck them, and it's hitting us too out here in Ocean County, as well. And so it's an issue. We don't need to know. And when you bring substance into issues, you have enabling, you have financial issues, codependencies, struggles for adult children. It's just damage. It's just damage. So at America's KESWICK, we all, and I'm sure Hope Shed Light, know that this thing is a process. Nobody, I wish I could sprinkle a magic dust on you and say, heal, and it'd be all over. But we know that doesn't happen like that, right? We know this thing takes work. It takes a process. This is not no ideal process from soup to nuts saying that you will be cured by the end of this process. This is just one of the many processes out there that's there and available for help. And we just understand it in a couple different topics. You can go any which way you want with this. But we just kind of categorize it because it's so big and vast. We just kind of categorize it in 4 different areas. And so first we talk about redemption. Yes, I'm a Jesus freak. Don't hate me. Okay. Okay. Yes, I love God. Don't hate me. I know everybody has their own pathway, and I don't know who everybody in this room. I know even in AA circles and they talk about a higher power. But don't we need a little bit more help than some of us try to muster up enough energy to get through some of these things, and it didn't work out, right? And so they say you need a greater power. And my greater power happened to be Christ, and it's called redemption. And he redeemed, meaning that he simply came back in a relationship. I'm in a relationship back with my Heavenly Father. He teaches me how to love. It says all have sinned. Anybody here haven't committed a sin in their life? We still haven't. We got anybody committed a sin? And I'm sure everybody has to go. And so we all in the same boat. We all got issues, whether it's substance abuse, whether it's watching unhealthy things on TV, whether, you know, the list goes on. I know a cousin that shops until all her cards are maxed out, and then when she get paid, she puts like $102 on each card, and then so she can max them back out. So she has a shopping habit. You have gambling addictions. And so all of us have sin. All of us need help. All of us, and in us, we believe that a relationship with God redeems us. And so I love Jesus and the Word. I'm glad that we have the cross up there. For all have sinned, and through the redemption of Jesus Christ, I've found freedom in that. I've found freedom in Christ. I'm forgiven. I've done a lot of things in my life, in my sin. In my addiction, it caused me to wreck every relationship that I had. I burnt every bridge. And what do you do with that? What do you do with this shame? Like, okay, when you want to here's the thing about somebody that's struggling addiction. When you want to start making steps in recovery, the shame and guilt when you get sober pushes you back into this situation. You know, your mom, with the things that we've done to our mothers, the things that we've done to our father. And so some of the shame. So we needed something greater for forgiveness, to start the process in forgiveness. And I thank God for that, for forgiving. He loved me. When nobody else loved me, when everybody else was done with me, I knew God loved me through that process. So, and recovery. Recovery looks different for everybody. If I probably went around a room, you could probably share different ways that recovery was effective in your life. It looks different. In my case, I needed inpatient recovery. I needed to get in a facility and surround myself with people who were going to train me, who was going to disciple me, who was going to keep me accountable, who was going to counsel me. I needed to get away from my environment. That's what I needed personally. And some guys, they go to recovery meetings, and they'll come to Hope Shed Lights. They have a lot of resources here, and it looks different for everybody. I love hearing everybody's different stories, because you can hear like the process in their lives and how it looks different than I needed, than the care that I needed. And so I always love hearing stories. Stories is a great thing. So recovery. And says, do not conform to the world. It's a transforming process. Anybody know that it's a transforming? We have to renew our mind to some things. The things that we used to do, we cannot do. The things we need to put on some new habits, right? You know what I learned? Walking was good for me. I take a walk with my dog. Everybody looks for therapeutic ways to walk through their new life, and it's so serene. It's so freeing to spend an hour with and I hate walking. I'm not athletic. I hate walking. But what I found out that when I take an hour a day in my walk, it gives me a chance to reflect, gives me a chance to meditate on what's important. How many know we forget about what's important? We forget about what's important, and so it gives me a chance. And so I found that you got to put on new habits, and walking my dog for 45 minutes to an hour a day, it's been helpful for me in my recovery. My wife did this. Obviously, I did it. She talks about emotional healing, right? And how does that tie in with a cake? She's a baker. She loves to bake, and what she found out in baking is, if you mess with a cake, anybody baking here? Any bakers here? Y'all probably understand this. If you mess with a cake or something you bake and prematurely, open the oven, or move, or what happens with that? It'll fall. Sometimes it'll fall in the middle. It'll mess it up. And so a lot of time in our recovery process, we get out prematurely. Like we go in and we do a 7-day detox, right? Oh, we're good now, right? Oh, we do a 30-day. Oh, we're fine now, right? Oh, I went to a checklist. I went to a recovery meeting twice this month, so I'm good. And you stop your recovery prematurely, and like that cake, it falls. It falls. And so with a cake and with baking and recovery, it's a process, and Yeah, I equate it to this. When you, if somebody been in surgery or broke a bone, you know, when you go to your physician, they give you consultations and kind of explain to you what's the options. And then in that options, they give you the best method for you because they're trained, they're educated, and then they get you to maybe surgery is an option. And they walk you through this whole process and then recovery afterwards. And if it goes through well, a lot of times you're better at the end of that, right? But it wasn't a one day affair, right? It was a process. That's how it is when you have an extreme addiction. You need treatment. You need help. You need a process. And we can't stop it prematurely. Or we'll fall like that cape. Or re-injure ourselves. And if we're talking about the surgery. So restoration, you know why anybody know why restoration is huge in the recovery process? Restoration or restore. Anybody know why that's huge? Restoration. Well, restoration, because we have broken so many relationships, because we have so many broken relationships, the healing process is part of, I think in the steps it says making amends. You got to make things right. It's huge for us. You know, you're coming clean, you're walking in a new direction. The first thing you do, you want to make things right. It's the right thing to do, to make things right. And I'm not saying you can make everything right, but you could start moving forward and making those relationships right, because that's how you show that you're in the right direction. When you start working in start restoring these relationships. You can't restore them all at once, but as they come up, you know, you write letters, they have different methods to restore, and it's huge for us because we want to get back in those relationships that we broke in. I can tell you something, a person in extreme full-blown addiction is different than a person that is in the sobriety. Y'all know that? And a person that's when he's in addiction, or him or her is in addiction, it's like we have to separate the fact that they're sick. They're sick. I was sick. The things I did in my full-blown addiction, I wouldn't have did when I was sober. There was no way I would have did half the things. I was sick in my addiction. And so when I came out and when I started working through my recovery, the first thing that the Lord was telling me, you have to make these relationships right. So restoration. Bearing one another. Hey, here's the thing. If you got somebody that's struggling right now, I don't know if you look in the scriptures or believe the scriptures, but this is something for a non-believer and believer alike. Bearing with one another. Lending yourself to one another. Bearing with it. And if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other. Forgiveness is important. Forgiveness is not always about the other person. Forgiveness is about you. Freeing yourself. You ever had a little bitterness to a person that wronged you? Boy, it burns you up, right? Boy, it burns you. It's killing you. The other person's moved on in his life. But that bitterness, it's destroying you. And so, forgiving one another as the Lord forgiving you, as so also you must forgive. So forgiveness is huge in the recovery process. Learning that your past is forgiven and you have to move on. If you hold on to those things, it will keep you hostage. And if you come out of those recovery, if a person ever struggled with any kind of addiction, when they look back at their life, it's a train wreck. It's a train wreck. You better learn that forgiveness is important, and understanding that you're forgiven and to move on is important. It's personal, and it's not the same as forgetting. We don't want to. Here's the thing: forgiveness doesn't mean it hurts. It still hurts, right? All the stuff that we do, all the hearts that has been broken, all the train wreck, it still hurts. Forgiving is not saying it doesn't hurt anymore, right? You know, forgiving actually is acknowledging and it hurt, but I forgive anyway, right? It hurts, what you've done hurt, but I still forgive you anyway. So forgiveness is key. Reconciliation. Reconciliation is a term that doesn't always happen. My mom, I'm going to show you how it works in my life, and I'm going to show how it didn't work in another person's life. We all know that reconciliation is getting back into a relationship with the people or persons that are in recovery or out of their addiction or interdiction. Reconciliation Doesn't always happen because one of the parties are not ready to reconcile for many reasons, and we all know why, and some have legit reasons. My mom left me at 3 years old. In that, I was in a household that had a lot of illegal drugs, legal drugs, massive amount of unhealthy behavior, dysfunctional situation. I was submerged at 2.5 years old. That actually shaped most of my life. I just did exactly what everybody else around me did. And later on in life, I went and got help. I went and got help. The help came from a source that I didn't know. And my mom got help. She was in Florida. She got help. She got better. Whatever she was going on, she got better. And when we came back together, we both were on the same recovery path. She was a little further than me because she got up a little earlier. And we made amends with each other. And my mom and I have a great relationship. Reconciliation. I don't hold no grudge against her. She loves me and my children and my family. And that's what we want. I mean, that's the idea of just moving forward as people are working through the recovery process, is to be reconciled because, like I said, family matters. And it's important to continue, and we need each other as we continue. So a couple of things. Blessed are the peacemakers who are creating peace. Some people are not peacemakers. They want to keep animosity going. But blessed are you, are peacemakers. So 3 things I like to just leave you with. Something to think about if somebody's struggling or if somebody knows a person that struggles. So one thing is important, and I think Hope Shed Lights probably have most of this stuff already in their system. Seek counsel and accountability for yourself. You need help. Seek somebody that's a little bit further along on the process than you. Seek some counseling. Seek some individuals that are well educated in the atmosphere or the issue that you're struggling with. Seek some counsel. There's people who are well trained and equipped to help you through the process. And they're everywhere. They're here and they're everywhere. Seek some help. Accept responsibility on your part. That's so huge. Just to get real. Be transparent. Listen, I'm a mess and I need help. We don't need to pretend everybody know you. I need help. I'm a mess. Fix me. Help me. I need help, right? Because I think we don't get help until we acknowledge that we need help. You know, we keep running around trying to make it look good, trying to put a Band-Aid on it, trying to work it out, trying to look good. Oh, how you doing? It's funny because even in church, you go out of churches and everybody's fine. How are you doing? Fine. Everybody's fine, right? But we're not. A lot of us got a lot. Get some help. Accept responsibility. Take appropriate action in faith. Meaning that if there's resources here through the channels of Hope Shed Life, your next step is to take action. Let's get busy. Listen, I'm messed up. I accept it. Let's get on the roll. Let's get this thing over. Because you know what? It's many of us that went before us that are doing well out of recovery. I know you probably say, look back and say, yeah, they're hopeless. No. I'm watching people live in victory. I'm watching people live in life, normal life, out of recovery, 30 years out of recovery. I watched a guy that I discipled. Listen to this. I watched a guy that I discipled, right, 6 years ago. I don't know how this guy blew right by me in his recovery. He wrote 6 books on recovery. He held a conference in PA somewhere with a couple hundred people there. I was like, what in the world? This guy had gas fluid, and he is being used, and hundreds of people like, we can get the help that we need. There's help out there, and you don't have to live, you know, like you're living. So there's help. Take appropriate action. And here's just some of the resources that we have. Colony University, I talked about at the 4-month program. It's all inpatient. We do mostly inpatient. And Barbara's Place is the house for the ladies. Nice, a lot nicer. I mean, you go in there and it's like a home. So I want to end right there. I want to give the floor back to Lindsay. But I just want to thank you guys for having me out. Oh yeah, if you want to do questions, I'm fine with that. Anybody have any questions or? Go ahead, sir.
So I just wanted to say that my dad struggled with chronic
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. I needed to hear that. I appreciate that. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Since I've gotten sober, I've had a strong relationship with God, but I feel as though I'm ignoring Jesus. I really haven't prayed to Jesus much at all. And I'm Roman Catholic. And I really don't know what to think about it. Does he feel ignored? Should I incorporate? What do you think?
Ed, you want to take that question? Ed works at Colony with us.
Yeah, well, obviously, when he talked about restoration, Jesus is the reason for restoration. God used Jesus for restoration. So Jesus would be the first person that we would go to. And he's God himself anyway. Right? And we believe in the Trinity. A lot of people have trouble struggling talking to God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit. Are they all three? Yes, they are, but they all have a different relationship with you. And so you can always go to Jesus. Because he's the one who goes before God with your problem.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah, I guess I was going to the big guy first.
Yeah. Let's skip the middleman, right? Right on time. Yeah.
We're all children of God. Jesus is God, so he's our brother. He's closer to us than God. In that speaking.
I noticed that in my relationship, as I grew, I started to understand it a little different. I think it's a development thing. You start to learn more and grow. And I think with anything, right? As we mature with something, we start to get a better understanding of how it all works out. And so, yeah, I would just say this is where you are in the process today. But that don't mean that's how it's always going to be, right? Amen. We're all in the process, right? I definitely am not who I want to be, but I'm definitely not who I used to be, right? Amen. Anybody else? Questions? Comment? Go ahead, sir.
I appreciate your presentation, and I have a friend who came out of KESWICK a few months ago.
Really?
I'm not going to say his name now, but I might talk to you about it later. But he's thriving, he's doing well, and he's following God, serving God, and so I've seen it like firsthand, so it's just cool to see that. I appreciate your presentation. Also, just about the praying thing. When I believe in God, and I guess I think God is very understanding, and He doesn't pick and choose. When we come with humility, like I've been praying for years and saying God, and He answers. I think He's very understanding, and as long as our heart's in the right place, He can see that. So,
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think people get the misperception of God. We think that He's this harsh, ready to drop a hammer on our head, or evil individual. But He's very understanding. Listen, I was in the middle of damaging everybody around me, and yet He picked me up out of there and pulled me out. And so He didn't judge me and leave me there. He gently assisted me through. And He put people in my life, like you guys, good people in my life, to kind of spur me along. And so, yeah, He's very understanding. Good. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Anybody else? Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you for coming with your wife in the hospital.
Yeah.
Gonna be okay. I was just wondering, when the individuals finish your treatment center, so the 4 months for the men and the 6 to year for the women, what do they do then for
Okay.
ongoing sobriety? Like,
Oh,
what
great
resources
question.
do you-
Great question.
And then also, how do you determine who gets what then? Like, when you have a bed available, how do you decide who's going to get it?
Excellent. Excellent questions. Let me just repeat question and make sure I got them right. One of the biggest questions is, what is the aftercare? What is the reentry after a person exit a treatment center? What is the system that we use to pick and choose who goes in those beds, right? Right? So 2 questions. First, let me answer the second one. Hope Shed Light. Great resources for a person that's leaving inpatient treatment. They have a lot of resources. They're connected. They're trained. They know stuff. They know people. Hope Shed Light is a resource. Let's just keep it clean. There's a resource right there in our backyard. And then we have places like this, like churches. Specifically, we set a guy on a covenant with a pastor in a local church. So they leave there. We sign an agreement with the church and that individual. And so we follow up for the next year. We track him for the next year. And usually by the year, if he can get through the next year, he has a little foundation. Him or her has a foundation. And how do we do the bed? We have an intake coordinator who's amazing. Her name is Terry. She is based on the availability of the bed. So we don't pick. They might have some extreme cases where somebody just has to get in there because of where his condition is. And then it might be another person who's gaming all night in his mom's basement and he needs to get help, but his help is not life-threatening at the moment. And so sometimes we make adjustments accordingly. It's like triage, right? Like when you go to the hospital, if my arm's chopped off and your fingernail's broken, in the hospital they kind of work through and see who's the most important. So we do sort of like a triage. And most of the time, though, you have a bed based on when you signed up. So we have a lot of beds open too, if anybody. Go ahead. Thank you for that question.
And to add to her question, is the program fee-based for the family, or is it donations that you take in to substantiate the program? How does that work?
Listen, that's a great question. You wouldn't believe this. We pay one application fee. One application fee. When you go in, you pay. It's a $500 fee. Listen, why we pay an application fee? Because you need people to get skin in the game. They need to be invested in their own recovery. That's actually part of their recovery. And so we tell them, go cut the church's grass. Go fix some light, and then we'll help them assist them. But after they enter our program, we don't charge $1, not a cent. And so I know a person that did 18 months. He said he wanted the long term. He stayed 18 months in our program and never paid $1. Guess what? After 4 months, we begin to pay him. We pay him for being in recovery. I don't know how the system works. We do the math all the time. There is no way that you pay a person in recovery and somehow all our bills are paid. And it's non-profit, so nobody's here to make a profit. None of us are rich. Obviously, in recovery, nobody gets rich, right? And so, so you pay an application fee, and then the rest of the place is free. Churches like this donate and help out some of the resources. Good. Thank you for that question. Any other question? It's a good question. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Susan, and I came in a little skeptical. I'm Christian. I love Jesus. He's my whole way. He's my favorite.
I'm on it.
But I'm very 12-step oriented.
Okay.
I know a lot of people who've been through your program. A lot of them, and a lot of them go to my church, in fact. So
What church is it?
Over Emmanuel Community.
Oh, that's a beautiful church.
Yeah, it's
Pastor Don?
Yeah, that's it.
Excellent.
There it
Excellent.
is. Yeah.
Excellent.
So I've seen a lot of your success stories, but I disagree with some of the ways and means. So I came up with my guard up a little bit, and that was just the presentation was wonderful.
Amen.
And I want to say I'm a recovering Catholic, and so when I came to the rooms, I was like, when I came to my meetings, that's one of my issues. So I was all about, shoving Jesus down my throat, and the paradox was that I found out it was a spiritual journey and some kind of relation with God, and I never got that in my experience of religiosity growing up. So I left me open to it, and God put Christian women in my path, and it's just like in hindsight, I'm just speaking for me. Christ saved my life, the 12 steps helped me live it, and it's a beautiful thing. So, but I really appreciate you coming out here.
Amen. Good testimony. I'm going to tell you something. Susan just stated that 12-step helped save her life. Why would I knock her in her system if that helped her put her on her feet? And she says she loves Jesus. So, just because we're doing something a certain way, that don't mean, just because we're doing something we think is right here, that don't mean what you're doing is not right. Right? And the Lord is working in your life, and you work the program the way you work it, and here you are doing well. Amen, right?
Yeah.
Amen. That's good. Thank you, Sid. Oh, you came in ready to fight, right? Right, it's
But
amazing.
that's how God works, so I come up with expectations.
Yeah.
I guard them, and God constantly busts it down.
Amen. And you know what? We know with this epidemic going on, do we have time to fight each other?
No.
We can fight each other on what we believe and don't believe. Listen, we need to help some people. I'm here to help some people, and whatever it takes to get it, roll up our sleeves. So thank you, Susan. Any other questions or statements or comments? Go ahead, sir. What's your name?
You want to just touch on TNT? Wednesday nights?
Oh yeah, TNT. We have a lot of stuff going on. Actually, we have a pastor here, and he let his worship team, if I'm not mistaken, his worship team come. That's the great thing about America, because they have a family that comes. His worship team comes and spends time with the guys and lead us in worship time and testimony time. It's Wednesday night. And if you're discouraged or you need a little encouragement, maybe things are not working out well, TNT is raw testimony. And guys are sharing, and you can share. And it's open mic for anybody to share wherever they are in their journey. We don't pretend that we're better than no one. We don't try to fix it each other. We just get up and share. This is what's going on in my life today. And so that happens Wednesday night. America's Cast at 7:30 is open to the public. So it's just a meeting of resources if you're free on a Wednesday night. So good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Oh, Lindsay, what time? Because this is her show. This is not my show. It's time?
It's time.
All right. Go ahead.
All right. All right, so I just want to thank you for coming out tonight and for your message. It was a wonderful message, and we love having you be a part of Hope Sheds Light. And we're going to end the live feed. But we have announcements.